Rams house. Welcome into a brand new episode of the Rams Report presented by Prize Picks. Guys, today, less than 24 hours after the breaking news, the excellent news around Matthew Stafford and his extension, which we talked about in depth last night when it first came out, we're going to take a look at the Rams cap space situation and kind of update ourselves on where they stand. And then we're going to take a look at what may be coming next, how the Stafford extension, how Stafford's new contract on the books affects some other guys on the Rams roster who might also be looking to get new contracts over the next couple of months. But just in case you missed it last night, Matthew Stafford is back for 2027. He has signed a 1-year extension. It is a $55 million extension worth up to $60 million if he hits $5 million in yet to be publicly disclosed incentives, giving him 2 years on his deal and a whopping $105 million remaining, which smaller, or I guess lesser known fact about Matthew Stafford, that'll continue to push his lead for highest earning NFL player of all time. He's made the most money of any NFL player in the entire history of the league. Currently at over $400 million, he will cross that $500 million threshold on his new deal. So a lot of money coming Matt Stafford's way, and I say he deserves every single penny of it for how well he's played for the Los Angeles Rams. And if you are fired up like I am fired up, if you agree that Matthew Stafford deserves this new extension, if you're excited about Matthew Stafford being around for not just 2026, but 2027 as well now, it seems, drop a like on today's video because we got to celebrate, Ramily. We've got to celebrate this great news, and it absolutely is great news because, again, it's a lot of money going to Matthew Stafford. It is a big-time contract covering him through 2027, which I have seen confusion about that in the comments section, and I do understand it. The way things have been kind of made out around Matthew Stafford lately, some people weren't quite sure whether or not this deal covered him for 2026 or covered him for 2027. This is for 2027, so this does kind of affirm, at least for now, the plan from Stafford's perspective and from the Rams' perspective is for him to play 2 more seasons. Now, let me be clear and let me be upfront and honest with you guys. That is a plan that could change at any time. You know what I mean? Like, you cannot take the word of a 38-year-old about his health 2 years from now in an NFL sense as gospel. This is the plan, but we will see how things go. If Matthew Stafford was to get hurt at any point this season, that may dramatically change the plan. Of course, that would be a disaster outcome, but this isn't a 100% commitment. It's more like a 90% commitment, if that makes sense, to playing in 2027. But let's take a look at yearly cap hits here. $48 million for Matthew Stafford in 2026. That hasn't changed. That was the number already on the books. The Rams do still have an opportunity to restructure this deal if they want to create some additional cap space. We'll talk about how much they have remaining on the books here in just a minute before they do any sort of possible restructure. But then his hit is also going to be $55 million in 2027. And I say incredible value, guys. Think about what other teams are paying their quarterbacks right now. The Cowboys are paying Dak Prescott $60 million. The Bengals are paying Joe Burrow 25% of their salary cap, and neither of those guys are producing like our guy Matthew Stafford, are playing at the level that Matthew Stafford has played at over the last season, especially. 4,700 yards passing, 46 touchdowns, 8 picks, and oh yeah, did I mention he won the MVP award? So let's take a look here. How does it affect the Rams cap space with this deal on the books? So it will be on the books from 2026 to 2027. So right now you have a $27.8 million left in cap space, which is still a lot of cap to play around with for the Rams for this upcoming season. And then you start to get into what I'll start to call the Puka years. 2027, you have $73 million. This will be a year that Puka's contract is on the books. So consider that to be automatically $40 million lower. 2028, $231 million. There are very few players on the books with significant contracts for 2028. And then 2029, this should say, there is only one player with a significant contract on the books, and that is Trent McDuffie. So $341 million estimated in cap space for the Rams. Next, we're going to get into what comes up for the Rams contract-wise over the next couple of months and next couple of years with other players. But first, I got to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video, guys, and that is our friends over at America's #1 sports picks app, Prize Picks. Guys, if you love daily fantasy sports or you just want to add more excitement to watching sports, you've got to try out Prize Picks. And it's a great time to get started on Prize Picks, too. With the NBA playoffs underway and the baseball season in full swing as well, there's no better place to get in on all that action than Prize Picks. And it's never been easier to play than it is with Prize Picks. All you have to do, guys, is pick 2 to 6 players. You're selecting more or less on their stat projections, whether you're picking from points, assists, rebounds, hits, home runs, strikeouts. They've got plenty of options from all your favorite sports. Plus, they also have awesome social features, guys. You can easily tail or fade your friends or your favorite creators, including me. I'm Jackson Durham with no spaces. If you want to go drop a follow on my Prize Picks account, you can see all of my latest lineups, including this one that I've got going with their season-long projections. I'm going with the less on Fernando Mendoza, the less on Jeremiah Love, and the more on Jordan Tyson. So you guys could tail me on that lineup. You could fade me on that lineup. Whatever you do, just do it with Prize Picks. And if you're new to Prize Picks, make sure you use our promo code when you sign up. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to receive $50 in lineups. That's code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to get an extra $50 in lineups with Prize Picks. The clickable link to download the app is in the comments and the description below. As always, thank you to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's show. Let's get back to discussing what comes next for this Rams team. And I think this one's underrated. I think everybody's mind, and of course ours did as well, we just talked about him, goes to Puka. Of course it does. Puka is, I think, almost inarguably the most important player on this team from a future forward perspective. When you consider that Matthew Stafford's timeline is very finite, Puka is the franchise beyond 2028. So, of course, he comes up. But so should Davante. I think Davante Adams, Puka's current running mate, is so deeply tied to Matthew Stafford at this point. You could view the two like this, the way I have my fingers right here, just crossed in together, interlocked. Davante said it himself. Whenever you retire, I'm done. So it's up to you. He told Matthew Stafford in the locker room this year, kind of laughing while he said it. And media asked him to follow up a couple days later, and he said, that was kind of a joke, kind of serious. I really don't know how long I'm going to play. I just kind of mess around with him. I did make that comment to him, though, and that was serious. At this point, I'm just grateful to be a part of something like this and ride it out and see where we go. Davante continues to play high-level football. At the end of the day, no one is questioning that. Davante is continuing to play high-level ball. He's one of, if not the best red zone threat in the NFL, even at his age. I think as long as he continues to play at a high level, the Rams should want to have him back. But does Matthew Stafford, maybe affirming to a unexpected 2027 season, change the calculus for Tay at all? I think it's worth considering. Is he still that interlocked to Matthew Stafford at this point, given another year down the line, given another season after 2026? I think that will be a conversation that the Rams have to have, because as of right now, he is not under contract for 2027. Unlike Matthew Stafford, that is not in place. The Rams would have to re-meet with him and get an extension done. But then, of course, we've got to talk about him. You got to talk about Puka and how Puka fits into the math here. I think the first thing we've got to talk about with Puka is when to expect this thing. And no, it's not worth. Don't get upset about the fact that Puka's deal has not come. Do not fret, maybe, is the right word to say, about the fact that Puka's deal has not come. The Rams have a timeline and a goal in mind for this offseason, as I understand it from everything that I have heard, and that goal is see it through from Puka's perspective. Finish the job as far as rehab goes. They want to see him get through the program. They want to see him stay committed to this. They want to see a serious effort at spending the rest of this offseason fully committed on self-improvement, both on and off the football field, and on staying out of the negative headlines. And if Puka can accomplish that, then this deal will come. If Puka can show the Rams, I am the mature adult that you need me to be. I have grown and I have changed over the last couple of months. They have been very impactful on my life in positive and negative ways, but ultimately, we have come out of this a better man. That is what Puka needs to show the Rams, and I truly believe that he will. And from what I have heard, he is well on his way to doing so. So there is no reason for Rams fans to panic about the fact that the deal has not been done yet. There is no reason for Rams fans to worry about this. At the end of the day, I trust in Puka to continue showing the Rams I am someone worthy of investing in, but they just want to see it through. At this point, the incidents absolutely bear pause on the part of this organization. I don't think it's unfair for them to say, hey, you got to prove it to us. You've got to prove to us that you are the mature adult that we are ready to commit this kind of money to. Because at the end of the day, when you're talking about that kind of money, it is bigger than just football. Nobody has any questions about Puka's talent on the field. Nobody has any questions about Puka's ability to be an impact maker, but they do have questions about Puka and his maturity level, and I think he's ready to answer them. Turner. Up next, I think we're looking at two guys here, Puka and Kobie. Davante will exclude from this ranking, this tier, foundational pieces, in my opinion. Two guys who are anchor points of their respective sides of the football, and at their ages, offer you the opportunity to be that kind of anchor for a long, long time. Kobie is, I truly feel this way. I think he's one of the most underrated players in the entire NFL. I think he is one of the best pass rushing defensive tackles in the entire NFL. He has really mitigated the loss of Aaron Donald. I think about that a lot. Obviously, he is not Aaron Donald. That is not what I am trying to tell you. I'm not saying Kobie Turner has come in and had an Aaron Donald equivalent impact on the Rams defense. But if you didn't have Kobie, the loss of Aaron Donald would have stood out so much more because Kobie has found a way to, while not drawing all the same double team attention, drawing all the same triple teams at times that Aaron Donald would, that would free up everybody else, has found a way to maintain the level of impact in the interior. If not at the same, it's still close. You know what I mean? We still have that interior impact maker who can get after the quarterback, who can create havoc in the interior, not just from a pass rush perspective. Obviously, that is where Kobie thrives, in my opinion, but also from a run defense perspective. He is no slouch in that area as well. He is a foundational piece of this defense. He will be kept around for a long time. I see Kobie playing in Los Angeles. I see Kobie playing in Soul and Royal Blue for the rest of his career. If I was making decisions, that would be the case. But now we got to talk about two guys who that may not be the case for. And we're going to start with Byron Young. Staying in that same department, the guys who get after the quarterback along the defensive line, Byron Young, for me, and I know some of you guys don't like that this has been my take for a long time, he feels like the odd man out. He feels like one of the odd men out on this team in general, but the odd man out especially as far as pass rushers go who are likely to get second contracts with the Rams. And it's not because he's a bad football player. Like, let me just be really clear. It is not because Byron Young is not a good football player. It is not because Byron Young has not been effective at getting after the quarterback in his time in Los Angeles, because he absolutely has. Absolutely he has been. But the one thing you have to consider with Byron Young that doesn't come up with the Jared Verse or with the Kobie Turner is he's significantly older. And do you want to commit that kind of money to a guy who came in a little bit older, especially when Jared Verse and Kobie Turner feel like they're about the same, if not just as good or better than Byron Young is, in my opinion? I think at the end of the day, age doesn't have to be a separating factor always, but when you're evaluating players who provide very similar impact, it becomes a very noticeable separator, and I think that's where at the end of the day, Byron Young might find himself off this team, whether that is just walking in free agency or being traded around the deadline for a return for the Rams. And somebody else that might be the case for, and this one stings too, is Steve Avila, man. I love Steve. Steve has been such a key piece of this team. Avila, since he came in, he's rotated from center to left guard. He didn't really play that great at center at times. He found a lot more success at left guard, although early on it didn't go that well for him, and then he really improved. But at the end of the day, you start totaling up all of these contracts that we're sure we're handing out. You start totaling up the money for Puka. You start totaling up the money for Kobie Turner. You want to throw in a deal for Jared Verse the year after that. Is there any money left for Steve? Is there any money left to keep a $15 to $20 million guard who is a really good player, but just might end up being a really good player that has to go play somewhere else because of the nature of the cap? Again, I've told you this before. I'm going to tell you it again because I believe that it's true. The Rams are going to have to let some people walk. And if Keegan Trost, who they took in the third round, can be what they hope he is, can step into a starting role in short order, then letting Steve go makes a lot of sense. You look at the draft. Where did the Rams try to prepare themselves? Interior of the offensive line. They added depth there. Not just for this season, but there's an aim that Trost, as a third-round pick, would be a contributor as a starter eventually. And for that to happen, somebody's out the door at guard. And while the Rams have been vocal about their interest in keeping Kevin Dotson, hasn't been the same for Steve Avila. So I think it's fair to say he might be on the outs with this team. But that's going to do it for us on today's show. A lot to think about as far as future decisions for the Rams, as far as contracts that may be coming down the road and things that are impacted by Matthew Stafford's contract. A lot more to talk about that and conversations we will continue to have on this channel. So make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you're locked in for all your Rams news, and we'll see you in the next one.